Hey, Jerry here, Execute Fitness, and today we're gonna look at the word of a plant-based word or vegetarian or vegan myth against reality. We wanna understand what's real about and what are the myths, because if you wanna be in my program and you wanna take access to obviously being vegetarian or vegan and doing it with that approach, I'm completely fine with it, but I feel like you should at least know what realistically is being proven and what is realistically not being proven to be useful. What is the good reason or bad reason to be? Before we dive in, I want to start off by telling you that obviously you do need to understand that this is just purely for the information of it. I don't want to go against any doctor or physician, prescriptions or any dietitian prescription as well. I found this information online based on research and based on obviously application that we can put in there. What are the good reasons? Obviously, violence on animals or ethic against life in general. That's one of the reason, a good reason to be. And if you are for this reason vegetarian or vegan, you will never find any dispute or on my part. This is actually important to understand. Another one is religion. So obviously, God or whatever, Jesus or whatever being you believe in it, or whatever the religions tell you, the limitation, for example, of some kind of form of meat eating or life in general being precious. This is a good reason to be. You will never get anything against. Again, you will never be disputed by me or by any of the team on that. You can actually be for those reasons. Also, this is a huge one, obviously, environment. And again, I don't really feel that you're going to be able to save the war by you alone stop eating meat or anything like that, or nor what they make you believe sometimes is completely real. There is always other underlying things. But again, if you want to be for environmental purposes, you definitely can be, and this is a good reason of being vegetarian or vegan. Taste, this is huge, because if you don't like what you eat, you're not gonna be eating it. So if you don't like eat meat or fish or whatever animal product might be, that's a good reason of being vegetarian too. So in my case, I don't really particularly like fish. I still eat it though, but it's very important that when you don't like something, to understand that obviously you're not gonna be eating that if you don't like it. Why not to be? Why, in my view at least, you would not have the green light, or which again, you can do whatever you feel with it, but why are this not good reason to be vegetarian or vegan? Or why, in my view or whatever, we're gonna provide you some scientific proof. What we have out there in the marketing is telling you something particularly hard, and then you wanna, they market it very hard on you, to be vegetarian for this reason. Why these are not the case? Obviously, weight loss. They say that weight loss can be best achieved with vegetarian or vegan. That's not the case. Diseases and cancer and diabetes and everything. And of course, the third one, this is funny and huge, is the fact that we're not made like meat eaters. Therefore, we're not supposed to eat meat. Reason number one, let's start off by reason number one, weight loss. As we see the pyramid here, we understand that by taking off completely an entire category of food, there is less calorie that you're ingesting, so therefore you're gonna lose weight. And this is exactly what you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose weight because there is, a very much of a lack of a protein part, because most of the time we don't get enough protein, and then all you losing most of the time is water and muscle and some fat. Realistically though, you would lose the same way when you do paleo, for example, intermittent fasting, carb cycling, any kind of form of calorie reduction diet. So it's really about reducing calorie, making a calorie cut, and it's not about reducing a specific kind of macro. So taking away an entire category of food, it doesn't make a diet work better than another. This is an example of the alkaline diet, right? They make you want to believe that by eating more alkaline, it's more healthy or it's more propense for you to lose weight. And that's why, and then some people try it off and they say, wow, I really feel much better on this kind of diet. You're feeling better because increasing the consumption of vegetable, of more alkaline food, like veggies, like fruit, like water. So if you've been more, as you get more hydrated and you get more vitamins and mineral, and you most likely, compared to the, the range, the diet that you're doing now, you're most likely eating less. You're gonna feel much better. You're gonna see yourself better in the mirror. You're gonna probably have lost some weight, and realistically you feel like much better. But it's not because the acidic alkaline diet food works better than another one. It's because you're actually ingesting different things that could be ingesting as you would do like a balanced diet, just reducing some calories. Okay, so this is very important to understand. Reason number two, this is very as much at heart for me, because obviously I have a really good friend of mine passed away from cancer, so I made my own research into what science proves. And realistically, as me as being a person that eats animal product and not, so I eat everything. It was very important for me to understand that this, what you're being marketed at, is true or not. China study. This is funny, and this is huge. It's a Bible for vegan and vegetarian. Funny enough, Mr. Campbell, as he did his studies, or how he conducted the studies, he actually decided to publish a book and make it commercial instead of publishing ever any scientific study or scientific journal these studies. So realistically speaking, this book, the information in this book is never been scientifically proved. As no study, as no, obviously probably no one except maybe for animals would do a study on proving that you can get cancer, because who wanna end up eating a particular food for any particular times and getting cancer in the process? Probably nobody. Realistically speaking, for causation, causal study or correlational study, it's never been proved that protein itself, specifically casein, like the book once makes you want to believe, can prove can produce more cancer than any particular other protein, specifically because your body doesn't know when digestion occurs. It doesn't know where that protein comes from. It will detect amino acids in the food. It will not know whether or not it's coming from a plant-based food or a animal-based food. So that's why there is no proof, there is no correlation, there is no real correlation with the fact that this casein, or the casein protein coming from dairy, can cause cancer. Realistically, I'm gonna make an example of how this study works, and it's like saying, let's make this funny example. As you get people, dying, on the hospital, in the same way you have this kind of people eating, and the same people that dies in the hospital, they also eat in the hospital. And as you make a correlation and you say, um, there is more people dying in the hospital, there is people dying in general, but and they eat in the hospital, and the food from the hospital is supposed to be healthier. At least most we would mostly congruently say that the food in the hospital is healthier than what the average person eats outside the hospital. But who would die more? What is the most probability that you would die in the hospital, or not in the hospital? Realistically speaking, even though people eating better in the hospital, they die more in the hospital just for the fact that they are in the hospital, right? So as we get this correlated, the food is not the reason of people dying. The same way, if the protein, if somebody gets cancer, it does not necessarily mean that it comes from protein, and obviously it comes from different multitude of factors, which is actually what you want to take home here. Obviously, this thing, like I said, it was never published, and usually a study to be published scientifically takes about 3 years as a study get approved or rejected. And obviously, we want to go deep into that, and I want to here take a small little disclaimer. I'm not a specialist of science as far as how scientific study works. I did study on university, so I know a bit of it. And basically, on the pyramid of scientists, there is a specialist on the bottom, which that makes the difference between somebody, for example, of, I don't know, a cousin, telling you something that you're gonna get cancer for protein because he heard from somebody, and a scientific doctor that tells you that because they studied that. So basically, that would get a difference of importance. Then we get obviously the study itself, it gets rejected or approved. Then on top of the pyramid, we get the peer review by other scientists, and then of course then the meta-analysis, the analysis. So basically, there is a whole pyramid of things. Scientifically, when you want to do something scientifically to improve humanity, it's never about commercial. Most of the studies are not even commercial. So funny enough, Dr. Campbell, when he proved his point, he thought it would be better to make it commercial in a book instead of proven scientifically. Here we have the impact factor. The impact factor says a journal impact factor for a particular year means that the total of articles cited by specific scientists on that previous year divided by the citations during those years to the previous year and during those years make an impact factor of importance, of relevance. So funny enough, the China study was never impacted, by any, never even published on any scientific study. So obviously, that would show you the relevance on that. I want to go deeper into obviously cancer though, because I feel like it's very important, specifically to me. We do have the guidelines, the international guidelines here that says there is 5 groups. Number 1 only being proven to be cancerogenic agents, which is 111 agent in here, which includes alcohol, which includes smoke, which includes UV, so sun, right? Which includes some portion of processed meat coming from burgers, including not only red meat being processed, but also includes obviously nitrates and things that, agent that would be on group number 2B. So basically when you put, like I said, when you correlate things all together, you understand that cancer is multifactorial. So don't take my word for it, go and research it, but definitely meat is not the reason people get cancer. That's for sure. Meat alone is not the reason. Now, I would go as deep and say as alcohol is winning number 1. So every time you go out and get a glass of wine or to dinner, would you say that that's the cause that you're going to get cancer in the future? No, right? I mean, there is probability, there is small little percentages, but is that case that is going to be the case for you to get cancer? Most realistically not. You get here, you can stop and check it out what they are. The agent that are, again, number 1 is cancerogenic and it's been proven, some proof of, sufficient evidence of that, it says. Will it mean that you're gonna get hepatitis B, you're gonna get cancer anyway? Will it mean that if you go outside and get some sun, you're gonna get cancer? No, there is probabilities, and it's usually a very small percentage. So again, as you get to number 2B probable, which is not even been any evidence of malaria being one of that, as you see, is very, very complex. It's not as simple as saying don't eat protein because you're gonna get cancer. As we see here, what is being proved, cancer comes from several things, but tobacco being very huge, 1/3 of it, obesity being 1/3 of it. So processed food, not only protein or whatever they make you believe, but processed food is huge. You being overweight. So if you are more than 25% of in body weight fat percentage in women, 15 to 25 is healthy. More than that, I would really focus on getting that to go down instead of thinking about whether or not you're going to be meat eaters or plant eater. Then of course you saw there is stuff like sedentary lifestyle, exposures to sun, family history, therapy, whatever. If you had cancer before, genetics is in there, the environment outside that unfortunately we cannot, the pollution we cannot do anything about, but it's small little 5% or 2% or 1%. So you need to understand that obviously there is a lucky or a luck portion of it in there, like whether or not you're gonna be on the wrong place in the wrong time, and several different things as well. You can stop this, and again, reinforcing the fact that tobacco and obesity is number 1 and 2. So you want to work on that you can. If possible, don't limit or don't smoke. And obviously get your exercise in and get the calories to go down and get to a lower fat percentage. Reason number 3, this is really funny, but I wanted to include it because it's a huge debate. We're not made to eat meat. And if you are not made to eat meat, doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot eat meat, as in fact humans don't eat just meat or just plants, they eat everything. So here, to make you to look the similarities, as you see a carnivore and the human on the right and lower side, human fetus, and then we have the chimpanzee, of course, and the Homo sapiens, we see that we are much more similar to the carnivore than we are of the herbivore. So the people that just eat grass, or the people that the animals that just eat grass, they have a different intestine than anything else. So again, and the whole debate means, then the food cannot stay in there because, then that toxin product, whatever the case might be, there are enzymes that your body converts. They used to convert things into other things in urea and, get rid of the waste product. The same way, like when you work out, you build up a very acidic environment with lactic acid. And for those of you that don't know, if lactic acid would stay in your body more than a few hours, you would be dead, completely dead. So, as we understand that, your bodies are an amazing machine on converting things and making physiology make its role and converting things. You need to understand the point that when the food gets to your intestine, be pre-digested, digested, absorbed, and most of the time absorbed with water as well. So basically, your body, one more time, will not understand whether or not the protein comes from the animal on from the plant. Very funny, and very. I'm gonna actually dispel another myth here about protein, causing cancer or being, dangerous for your kidneys. Or whatever case might be. Chimpanzees eat everything they eat. Eat other animals. They eat tons of, and literally tons of plants. Which when you get like a small little bamboo, there is always 2 grams of protein in a bamboo can. But if you eat 15 kilograms of it, like the chimpanzee or the gorilla does, you will have eaten 390 grams of protein. Now, of course, there is proportion, but any human never any human will never hit any as much as that, as for like 390 grams of protein. Realistically, though, it's been proven because you don't see statistically chimpanzee dying from cancer or dying from any specific disease or getting like a kidney transplant from the protein. So here it proves you that protein itself are not the problem. They will not make you harm. Of course, obviously you don't want to eat as many protein as here, but to make you understand that logic and whatever science says is a little bit different than what the marketing tells you. This is also funny because the Dalmata is purely a carnivore. Dogs, obviously nowadays dogs eat everything, but a Dalmata is made to eat meat. He's a carnivore, and it's funny enough that when God made this nice little dog, he forgot to put an enzyme to process the toxins of the nitrogen, so being a waste product of protein, into uric acid to make this nice little dog pee out the toxin. He forgot to make that. In fact, that's one of the reasons these dogs, they get kidney stones sometimes. So just because you're made to eat meat, it doesn't necessarily mean that eat meat is okay, and the opposite way around. Because you're not made to eat meat, it doesn't mean that you can't eat meat. So that I thought to include that because it's very funny that sometimes creation doesn't really come in proportion to what you need. If you want to be, so after all this information, you can pretty much choose whatever you want. But if you want to be, I would say vegetarian, if you want to go green, you have the green light for me, but you do need to understand what to do. So obviously here we see that proportion-wise, we're talking about at least 70% carbohydrates, 20% fat, or 25 because fat is double than calories than protein, and also protein coming from legume will include some kind of a fat. So we don't want to go too much on proportion or on percentages. We want to go on grams, at least 0.7 to 1% gram, 1 gram times kilogram of body weight should come from protein. So you're gonna have to understand that you have to work harder than somebody that eats meat. You want to make up your own plates. Obviously, you want to include the protein come from mix of proteins like bean and legumes, and the way you mix it, it's very simple. We're gonna see after the way you mix it, but before that, I thought I'd include this about again one more time the body shape. Specifically pear body shape. Body shape pear have 3 subdivisions coming from an extra built-up of estrogen in the body. So you want to avoid food that creates that promotes extra carbohydrates. Extra build-up of estrogen, extra water retention. So be careful of tofu, soy, all these things. Stuff that retains water, stuff that creates cellulitis. And of course, if you are in VIP, we can go deep into researching what body type exactly you are and what we should be doing there in terms of exercise and everything else as well, and diet, of course. You want to be shifting, you want to be keeping like a regular, eating carbohydrates mostly morning instead of night. You want to shift towards whatever scientific thing of spot reduction we have, even though it's very limited. But estrogen obviously tend to want to limit the carbohydrates at night. So I mean, as again, it can be for you, it can be not for you, but realistically speaking, that the thing I can tell you now without going more into depth on personalization. You want to be including, like I said before, at least 1 gram times kilogram coming from any of these sources you see. You want to be familiar with what you get in between. You're going to get some fat, you're going to get some carbohydrates. You want to be really, really familiar with what the food is made up with. Here is a good way to make a smoothie. You can get veggie protein, very important. And of course, as we make up like a balanced meal, depending on what you're gonna put in there, you're gonna get a different macro split, as we see here. You wanna be able to understand that to make up the 11 amino acids that your body needs to get from the diet, is much more difficult doing it with a non-animal diet. You want to be able to mix different proteins to make a full biological protein, which come from grain plus legume plus nuts, dairy from plus grains, and so forth. Basically, as you mix this category of food, you should mostly get a full protein here. And of course, if you're lacking of some things, you want to be able to supplement. Vitamin D is important. Again, don't look at the brand too much because it doesn't really matter. Veggie protein or any brands is good. Deficiency of B12 because most of the animal products or protein has B12 already included. So you want to get that if you feel like it's missing. Of course, omega, if you're not eating fish, is huge and you should be getting that. So hopefully this video was good enough for you. And of course, as you are in the program or as you want to jump in the program, you want to be letting me know what you need in addition to that.